Two fresh cases of COVID-19 have sparked urgent new advice for the thousands of shoppers who were at Westfield Bondi Junction last weekend. The Health Minister advising every one of them to get tested, warning the Delta strain of COVID can be transmitted within seconds.
A bleak morning on the Bondi testing front line as Sydney dices with a Delta outbreak.
This particular Delta virus is a near and present danger. Going through the airspace where the person has breathed out, we could see you becoming positive.
26,000 people were tested yesterday. The Health Minister says that's not enough. Virus detectives are zeroing in on the Westfield Towers at Bondi Junction. Anyone in any part of the shopping centre, including the car park last weekend, urged to get a swab. That number could be in the thousands, and health authorities have relaxed the isolation rules for people with no symptoms.
We ask that you get tested. While you don't have to strictly isolate, we ask that you minimise your exposure to other people until you get a negative test.
The cluster started with the airport driver who first infected his wife, then a woman in her 70s at the Bell Cafe in Vaucluse. He brushed past a man in his 50s at Maya in Bondi Junction. He became case number 4.
Was no more than seconds in the near vicinity, somewhere in the range of between 10 and possibly 50 to 60 centimetres away.
Health authorities say it's likely he also had contact with a woman in her 40s who regularly walks through the same Westfield. She's now positive. As well, a man in his 30s who lives in the CBD and went to the exposure site last week. His positive test takes the cluster to 6. Yesterday, he travelled to the Illawarra and spent 20 minutes in the Broken Drum Cafe at Fairy Meadow, despite the alert today at Wollongong, barely a wait for a test. The Junction COVID scare has dampened what would be a bustling Saturday of shopping. While not compulsory, many are in masks. The 5-day mask mandate only on public transport.
Face masks are mandatory on public transport.
A warning which, for many, fell on deaf ears. There are multiple transport alerts between Central, Bondi Junction, Campbelltown and Newtown stations over the past 7 days. As well, Stockland's Maryland Shopping Centre on Monday, Birkenhead Point Brand Outlet in Drummoyne on Tuesday, and IKEA and Decathlon at Tempe on Wednesday.
There's a good chance, it's not a small chance, there's a good chance that more restrictions will be needed if this gets out of control.
At 1 o'clock this morning, Queensland's hard line on the Waverley LGA kicked in at the airport. Melissa and Abby were lucky. Under new rules, sent packing back over the border instead of into expensive hotel quarantine.
When I was looking it up, all I saw were the specific hotspots, the restaurants and the stores, so I thought it was fine.
But for these Queenslanders arriving after the cut-off, getting home is via a police escort and a 2-week detour in a hotel room. And to avoid getting caught out like those people, here's what you need to know about borders. As of today, anyone travelling into Queensland will need to complete a declaration form. If you've been in the Waverley local government area, you'll be sent back to New South Wales or into hotel quarantine. There's breaking news from WA. Anyone from New South Wales must get tested and self-quarantine until they get a negative result. Victoria has also imposed restrictions classifying the City of Sydney, Waverley and Willara LGAs as orange zones. Anyone who's arrived from one of those areas from June 11 must isolate and get tested. Northern Territory, anyone who's been to an exposure site needs to self-quarantine for 14 days. Tasmania and South Australia have banned anyone who's been to those sites, while people who've been to an exposure site must apply for an exemption before entering the ACT. Of course, anyone planning to travel interstate is urged to check relevant health websites as the information changes rapidly. Georgie.
Lizzie, thank you.
For breaking news, turn to Peter Overton, nightly at 6.